get your feelings hurt. Read this.
Well, it's time for another episode of Short Film Roundup, the place where three cursed filmmakers review short films. User-submitted short films.
Yeah.
That's you guys.
Send them to us, we'll review them.
And they appear on here.
On the list. We got a list.
The ever-growing list of short films.
Yeah. We're starting to run out of films, though, which does mean we get to leave the void, and we are no longer cursed.
Holy crap. You're right.
I'd rather that not happen, though, because I like it here.
Yeah, we have only about...
You're a kiss-up, is
what is it, 10
No.
more films?
Yeah, you are.
10?
That's awesome.
Really?
Yeah, we're almost to the end. We're going to be free!
Something like that.
And I get to go home for Christmas.
That'd be awesome.
You guys are just not loyal.
No, I'm not loyal to Payman. He's a demon.
What's wrong with you?
He's a demon.
Why would you not be loyal to him?
How'd I get this jacket?
Have you seen the movies he makes?
They're beautiful works of art.
Now,
You just don't get them.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't get them.
I don't get symbolism.
They're
Anyway,
what do you? Huh?
are we undressing?
Yeah.
I can.
Cool. I'm in. Let's see.
What's going on?
Well,
What's
we're
the
getting
episode?
close to the end of the year.
Oh, so yeah.
2018 coming to a close, and that will be a close of our first session of Short Film Roundup.
Yeah.
It will. What does that mean?
The very first of the new year, we will be holding our first annual award show.
What?
Annual award show.
That's
We will
amazing.
be recognizing and awarding the best of Short Film Roundup. Every filmmaker who has participated thus far will be considered for awards.
Yes.
And we will shortly be notifying all of our nominees.
Oh yeah.
Indeed.
That's something else right there. That's really some.
That's going to happen.
It'll take you places. Your career will never be
Oh,
the
yeah.
same.
No. So much exposure.
Yeah, the exposure will be like 145 people.
Sad.
Okay. So today's film is youtube.com/watch. Oh, this is Shadows.
Oh, who's that by?
Shadows.
This is by Colin Berry,
Cool.
and it was submitted to us by the writer, whose name is Eric Walker.
If you've seen Short Film Roundup before, you know what to do. If you haven't, what do people do?
There's a link in the description,
Yes.
and you can click on that link, and it'll take you to the film in which we were talking about. You then watch it, come back, leave us a little comment, and tell us what you thought.
And watch our review.
Yeah.
And if you don't like our review, if you violently disagree with us, then please let us know. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
Use foul language.
Profanity,
Absolutely.
death
While-
threats.
And while you're
Yeah.
doing all that, be sure to subscribe and like,
Yeah.
because that's something you do when you
Yeah, subscribe,
how-
smash that like
How
button.
else would you
Subscribe
feel your hatred?
also. Yeah.
Mm.
Also, if you are a filmmaker, you can submit a film to us by using the form in the in the description.
Yeah.
Description, there's a form, Google form, click on it, fill it out, send it to us, bam!
And let's watch the movie.
Let's do it. Hey, Kenny.
Hello?
What's up? Are we back?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Welcome back.
What'd you think about Shadows?
Well, I'm excited to dig into this one because it was immediately clear that we had different opinions about the movie.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Which is always exciting.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah, we all
When
hated
it does.
We
We hated it
that's
to
how
different
that works.
degrees.
Oh, that's a great film.
I thought it was a very proficiently made film. It never quite caught me the way I wanted it to. During this whole sequence, the first 2/3 of the movie that takes place in this office complex, I never felt suspense. I never cared about this character, and I think it's because it's the same problem we've seen in many short films where we see a character going through a thing. We are witnessing a human experiencing something that is scary, as opposed to experiencing something scary with that human. That comes by having empathy with the character, and that empathy comes from some character development. And there really is very thin development here, maybe none at all. It's just a creepy thing that happens in a cool place. The tone is cool.
Tone's dope.
The visual effects are off the hook.
Amazing.
There's been films we've seen where we're like, this is a VFX guy.
Yeah.
making a movie,
Yeah.
right? And I do feel that way about this one, that the VFX are the star and the story is kind of second. At the end of the film, he gets sucked into a void, kind of like our own. He gets sucked into some other world.
Yeah.
He lands in this other space, and he is confronted with like a panel of observers that are like aliens or something. That 20 seconds was so interesting to me that I wanted to see more.
Yeah.
And it made me wish that none of this office part happened, or this office part was maybe all of a minute long or less, and that the movie was beginning at that point. Because that's what I really wanted to see, was more of like, whoa, this is actually really cool. I dug that a lot.
Yeah.
This just all felt very generic.
I'd have to agree with
with cool graphics.
The whole empathy thing. I absolutely adored this film, and you're right about the empathy string. We talk about empathy in just about every episode, and something that I thought was really interesting about this film is that I think more horror movies, I would consider this a horror movie, maybe a thriller, but more horror. Most horror movies, I feel like, create empathy accidentally, where they have no character, like almost zero character motivation slash what's the word when you develop character development. Almost no horror movies have character development besides one siding, creating two-dimensional characters, that whole thing.
Except for the short list of horror movies that happen to be great.
Right. So for most horror movies, they have pretty flat characters. However, you still have this huge empathy with them because you're getting scared at the same time they are.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the thing about horror movies, is that you're trying to push scaring the audience. And I think that's just become a thing that people have decided to do. It's really interesting in this one because it doesn't feel like we're getting scared. It feels like we're watching someone else getting scared. And I think it's a weird example of something that I feel like horror movies should have always done in the past, but have never gone that way. And I think it's just because it's really fun to scare audiences. Anyway, that's what I thought about that.
Yeah. It's funny, is I don't exactly disagree with either of you, but I feel like I have a very different viewpoint of this movie, where it's like I didn't think that the character at all was the focus. I mean, like, obviously it's not, because he's not developed at all. I thought that the focus was tone and like, it's kind of like how, like, in video games when you have your silent protagonist, and the idea behind that is you fill in the shoes, like, yourself. And that's kind of how I felt watching this, was I was putting myself in his shoes. And that's harder for me to do when there is a fully fleshed out character. Like, if there's no one, like I can't, because, like, if there's a character on there that has character traits that I don't identify with, I'm not going to be able to get into his shoes. Not that that's bad, But in this instance, I felt like the main idea was create something extremely atmospheric, something very tone heavy, and something very, like, experiential, and then put you in that shoes. Try and imagine yourself in those shoes. And that's why it worked for me for the most part. It wasn't until, like, just after here that I felt a little bit bored. And I think that's because I felt like the film already climaxed with him getting those doubled up effects and all that and being attacked. I wasn't sure where else this movie could go. And so I kind of just felt out of it. But then it does go somewhere really crazy, which is kind of fun, where he goes to this other dimensional thing. And it's definitely more my taste. I do like tone-heavy, tone-driven films. And so, yeah, that's what I think.
Tone-driven is definitely the word to use here. I thought it had a similar tone to some of Denis' movies, but not too much. Because they do the slow dollies and stuff like that, like the beginning here, right here.
Yeah.
Like this kind of stuff remind me of Denis stuff a lot. Denis Villeneuve. I have to agree with the. It's so interesting what's happening, but like the whole alien kind of thing happening. I'm not sure I really understand what you're talking. I mean, I think I know what you're talking about when you say you're putting yourself inside the shoes of a silent protagonist. I know what you mean when you say like video games do that. But in video games, you have a direct correlation because you are controlling usually the main character. In here, we don't have that correlation. We literally have to give ourselves to the film.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you mean at all, especially, and not just because I'm not a video game guy, but how are you suggesting getting into the shoes of a character if empathy is not a part of the in play? Because like that ultimately is what that means.
Is that inferring empathy is what you're saying? Like inferring, like, or not inferring, creating empathy. You're literally
my whole
creating
point
empathy.
was that it was impossible to get into this guy's shoes.
Yeah.
Because he's uninteresting entirely.
I feel differently because I felt like there was no intention to make the character distinct, and it made it easier for me to get into that kind of character. You know, when I'm watching a movie, I never identify with characters. Like, it almost never happens. But that never stops me from liking a character or getting invested in a character's story. For me, it's easier to get, like, one-to-one, I'm getting into this character's shoes if the character has as little character as possible. That's my opinion.
When you say identify with, I think it may be
because identify.
Well, identify
in
terms
with
of like
doesn't
first
mean
person.
it doesn't mean I have in common with something.
I'm saying
It
first
means
person
learning their
immersion,
humanity,
you know.
so that you.
Wait, we had two thoughts going at the same time. What did you say?
Well, what I was just going to say was that so I just want to differentiate the fact that having empathy with the character is not related to identifying with the character, right? Like, you don't have to have something in common with what you're seeing on the screen. You don't even have to have had the same experience, similar experiences or anything like that. It's simply seeing, simply getting to a point where you care about a person because you've seen their humanity.
I would say that too. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
And that's being in. You said, oh, well, I get invested in the character.
What I mean when I'm saying
that is empathy.
What I mean when I say that is, it's not that I care for the character. It's more that I can see myself in the situation easier. And I think that's the idea.
If there's less?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me at all.
Because I'm not being like, oh yeah, I'm an office worker and I've been there before. It's more like I can feel this happening to me personally.
Yeah.
Because I don't see it happening to a character. That's what I mean.
Say, for example, we take a scene that's kind of similar. We talk about The Matrix, right? When Mr. Anderson goes to his desk and you feel... Or, no, let's talk about Office Space, okay?
Haven't seen it.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
When our main character goes to his desk and hears, all this crazy stuff going on and his bosses come by, would you feel more relatable to him or would you feel more relatable to someone like this where there's nothing going on?
The word relatable is what's messing us up here.
Okay.
It's not about that. It's about me, Taylor Schofield, in that movie. That's what it's about.
Okay, so not relatable, but what would you say? Would you like situational?
Situational.
Yeah, we're talking about like immersive.
It's experiential. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
talking about. We're trying
to
talk about the same thing, but you're describing accessing it a different way.
I think that's what it is. I think you and I talk about relatability in a different way because you did use the word relatable.
Yeah.
I think that's what messed us up.
Yeah.
I can see this being like a video game.
Virtually all of many of your most favorite movies do not do what you're describing.
Yes.
They develop characters.
I'm not against that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's something I love.
Yeah.
But I also love this kind of way of doing movies. But not a lot of people make movies like this.
Yeah.
These are kind of movies that I'm interested in making, actually.
Yeah. I think it's an extremely interesting movie. I just don't see any opening for that kind of immersion you're talking about at all. Like it's sealed off to me.
It's a different kind of immersion, I think, because it's. I honestly do think it's coming from an interactive kind of perspective.
It's because he's a gamer.
No, I don't think that's it. Like, the first thing that happened to me when I watched this film was I came out of it thinking, wow, that was amazing. And it was the first thing that I also said about a similar film, Annihilation, when I came out of that film thinking, wow, that was amazing. Both films had such cool stuff going on. Neither film had very good character development. And I think that, at least for me, is one of those things that I can relate with the film because of its tonality, or if its filmmaking abilities, or if its situational techniques, is that I can look into those kinds of things and I can be like, oh man, I could do that, or hey, I could be in their shoes, or I could do whatever it is that they were doing. But like in a film like Sicario, for example, that's a film that I could never ever be in situationally, but I feel way more engaged than something like this. You know, or something like Annihilation, or something like anything else that has no character development. It's just, I think it's a different kind of immersion.
Yeah, what it is. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, with like earlier we were talking about American Psycho.
Yeah.
Right? There's a character that I do not identify with.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I am him in that movie. Right?
Yeah.
When I'm watching that movie, I go through the whole ride with him.
Yeah.
Well, and that movie is about him. And this movie isn't about this guy per se.
Yeah.
The experience that we're having here is not about his experience.
Yeah.
It's about what happens to him, and then we're just on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And I really think
that's exactly what I felt like. I
Yeah.
felt exactly that. I was on the outside looking in.
Yeah. And that's not typically the kind of stuff that you like.
There's no emotion there.
And I would say the same. When we first, like I said, when I got out of this, I would be like, I really liked it, and then I was like, there's like this thing holding me back.
That's why I can say, I can look at this movie and say, this movie was very cool, and this movie was very proficient, and this movie was creative, you know, but I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, I didn't feel the same way. Yeah,
I felt things. I liked it.
Yeah,
I was immersed.
But I
for
think
the most part,
what you felt though wasn't humanity, right?
Not at all. It was situational.
It was situational. Yeah.
Tone.
Yeah.
This is a tone-driven, situational film.
Yeah.
Not about character.
And I think that's why something like Blade Runner 2049 would make that higher. Is like if you took the characters out of Blade Runner 2049, the tone poem there would be just as strong as this, right? Or this just as strong as that. But when you add characters in there, I think it gives it another level.
And I think that's where because I love like completely abstract tone poem films.
Yeah.
I'm into that. Always have been. To me, I feel like I couldn't quite go there with this because of the person in the frame.
What if he basically was not here? If he didn't exist,
like
the tone poem would be the same.
Because he was there.
Yeah.
I felt like there's something here I should be grasping to,
but it's not there.
But it's not there. Like he distracted me from the tone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I can see that.
That's I would agree.
Imagining this movie
and
literally.
I'm not sure that was the artist's intention.
No, I don't think it was.
I question whether or not we're meant to connect to this character.
I think what happened here was a mistake. I think it was. But what happened because of that mistake is still an interesting art piece.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, I do love characters. Like, literally, like you said, literally my favorite movies are literally character pieces.
Taylor Schofield, anti-character. Let it be
That's
known.
what he just said. He
Let
just said, I am
Let it
against
be
characters.
written. Taylor Schofield, anti-character.
But imagining this movie, like, if all the shots were exactly the same and literally the guy was just not there, that would have been a cooler movie. I would have been even more interested in that. That would have been an even more like intense experience.
I think it's because the way it's shot, it's very centric on the person.
Yeah.
Which conveys to me an intention that we are supposed to feel what he's feeling and be connected to him.
For example, the part where he goes into the coffee, right? This whole thing.
Yeah.
Why would that be there if it's not about him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just it. I don't feel like it went in. It didn't commit to either direction.
Yeah.
The idea of a character-driven narrative, or the idea of a tonal piece.
Now, here's a problem: is what would they have to change in order to make this about the character, right? In order to put in humanity.
Small
into
things. There's small things you could do.
Yeah.
a little bit more with scenes like this where he's in the kitchen here. If we had him do something other than scratch his forehead. Like, what if we went to the refrigerator and, it depends on what you've decided about this backstory. What if he goes to the refrigerator and it's chock full of food, but the one thing he takes is a candy bar?
So there's
or
no
an
personality,
energy drink.
is what we're saying.
What if we show what's on the screen that he's typing? What if it's like a suicide note or something?
Yeah,
you know?
So
there's a lot of ways you could do it.
So there's no personality, is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Because everything that he does here is situational. That's really interesting to me because all the character moments here are character moments, but they're not personality moments. Like, he's at work, he's staring at the window, he's typing, he gets tired, he gets coffee.
It's a person, it's not personal.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing work, he notices weird sounds. That's something everybody would do all the time, forever. None of this is unique to him. And that's, I think, what devoids it of personality and devoids it of empathy.
Yeah.
Neither of which needs to be done in order to be a really interesting art piece. Because what you've done here, filmmaker, is really cool. And one of my favorite films that we've covered. Like, even just this right here, this sequence is probably one of my favorite sequences I've seen.
Going down the stairs bit?
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, too.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I liked when he looks up and the darkness follows.
And it follows.
I thought that was pretty rad.
Yeah.
Right there,
Yeah. Like, and the whole blinking thing, I love this.
It felt very disorienting. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. And so that being done, and then also with the guy approaching the car, like the fear hitting here, I think is a really cool thing that we're going for. And I really liked the whole film because of how cool everything was. I like it for different reasons that I would like a film that has personality in it.
I could say something.
Say it.
Say it.
Okay. You ready?
Oh, crap.
Wait.
Put on your helmet.
Yeah, get my helmet.
Seatbelts. Say it.
Sometimes intent doesn't matter
Well, no, I completely agree with you.
because,
You didn't say I need my bulletproof vest on, too.
and here's my reasoning behind that and my idea behind that.
Yeah.
Intent can make your movie better, and obviously you need intent to make a movie. Like, you can't just accidentally make a movie somehow, you know? You can accidentally do things in a film that turn out really cool and become cool things.
Yeah.
And from an audience point of view, outside of the artist and the author, and as an artist in the audience, when I watch a movie and I see something that works in a certain way in my head, that's something that I want to take and use in my own art, regardless if the artist intended it in the first place or not.
Because you saw something cool.
Right, that worked in that way for me.
Yeah, inspiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that sense, intent, that's where I get kind of weird about intent sometimes, where it's like, if it works for you, then it works, regardless of what.
No, yeah, that's true.
You know.
It's just, I mean, we talk in circles about this because where it gets, like, squirrely is it possible to intentionally not use intent?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I don't know.
Right.
I
don't know about that. I think you can.
No, but there's your choice.
Yeah.
You've just made a choice.
Yes, but you're not
Intention.
choosing what goes into the movie necessarily.
No, but you are intending a different way of creating your film.
Yeah, again, you
You're
can't
consciously
accidentally make a movie.
You know,
you
and
can't.
and ultimately that whole film is then going to be made through that lens of that mindset.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a very cool film. It'll be a unique film, but to separate art from intention is really difficult to do.
Yeah, and again, you can't make a movie accidentally, even if you are doing. It is still the initial intent to make something intentless, but you are still making it intentless. You know.
I think. Are you referring more to serendipity? And
Serendipity and
say if you're
like
like
Inland Empire,
free flow type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your intention was still to make a free flow type of thing,
Yeah.
and now that's the language of the movie.
Yeah.
You've sought to make a movie in this particular language.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
But again,
I don't know what you guys are talking in circles about. I see both of your points, and I understand both of them. I don't understand why there's a continuing discussion.
I feel like there's more to it than like I think you can make stuff, like obviously you do have to have the initial intent, but I think by putting so much focus on that initial intent, you discredit the art of it afterwards. The art of the process.
Again, that's talking about serendipity, right?
Yeah.
So are you saying that if we focus too much on intent, that we're blocking that idea of serendipity?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why it's hard to vocalize and
If I may venture to
to
make an example.
frustrated.
The way that I made my first 3 documentary films, which were all feature length, okay, was I had a concept in mind, just a concept. No exact story to tell. I was going to find that story as I just followed stuff, right? I didn't know who I would meet, what they would say. I just went out and shot stuff. And then later I had to take that stuff and sift through it and figure out how to turn it into something that was interesting to watch. And in the end, I have this movie. And so those movies have a particular feel and style because I went about making it that way, right? So if you want to make a movie like that, that's how you go about making that movie.
Yeah. Like Inland Empire by David Lynch was made by, like, he said, like, he would talk about his process by saying, like, he would just get an idea, it would just pop in his head, and he would just shoot it. And then he would just wait. It would just pop into his head. He wouldn't even question it. He'd just shoot it. Mm-hmm. And then he just did that over and over and over again.
That's pure serendipitous.
Yeah, until he got a 3-hour film and put it together.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
Yeah, when I talk about serendipity, I mean allowing randomness to take control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Allowing the universe to just do what it does.
Yeah. And the reason why it's a never-ending argument is because I could suggest that is the strongest form of following an intention.
You could, but that's for the sake of argument. That doesn't really do us any good.
Again, it's putting
Here we
too
are
much.
Again.
It's putting too much weight on intent.
No.
It's putting too much value in intent.
Well, I don't think that's valuable to talk about that. To talk about intent as a certain way of approaching ideas, because filmmaking is just an art in itself.
Yeah.
So
that's why I was about to take it. You want to hear something really crazy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have
ready to strap in.
It depends who's editing this.
Do it.
Talking about art in any objective way, is almost
anti-art.
Yeah,
I know.
Except what we're saying is, we're using the word art,
which completely discredits our show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. David Lynch doesn't talk about his art. He doesn't discuss it with anybody.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's sort of full of it.
I think this show in particular, I think any review show in particular, is taking art and figuring out what makes it the way it is. And therefore you need to have some sort of set of definitions to put alongside of it and compare. Because without it, then there's no real understanding taking place.
To argue further,
please.
I don't mean to discredit, like, talking about art, because that's, like, literally one of my favorite things to do. We talk about art all the time. We talk about films constantly. Even when we're not doing this show, we're talking about films all the time.
Yeah. We just sit in the void, just talk about films
all
the time.
And this
nothing else to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you going to do? So I'm just kind of following this thought process and kind of my point of view on art. But it's like, I think there's a loss in translation when you talk about a movie.
Sure.
When you describe a movie,
because the experience isn't there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A film there's cinematic language,
Yeah.
which has had techniques in it that have been proven to do a certain kind of thing over time.
Yeah.
It's still somewhat subjective language,
All of them are, yeah.
but it's still a language in and of itself.
Sure.
By talking about it and translating it to English, you lose part of it. And sometimes you can, I think we get into that
and I think that's
cycle
true.
where it's a language barrier.
Well, that's
what it
true
is,
with like human emotions.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's like when a couple try to fix their relationship or work on their relationship. It's always a disaster.
Exactly.
Because you can't.
Because they're two different perspectives.
And you can't put some things into words well.
Right.
Yeah.
But the reason why I think reviewing or critiquing or whatever we want to call it of films is valuable.
It is
because
no doubt.
It's the most one of the most complex art forms.
Yes.
In that it's such a huge blending of art and craft.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's always the craft side here, which you do talk about, right? That you must talk about, or there is no craft. And the fact that the movie is simultaneously an expression, but also consumption, right? What are you doing to an audience? What are you doing for yourself, right? Two completely different things at play when you're doing a movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not trying to discredit our show. I think I think a lot of people have let us know that what we've critiqued for them has helped them at least in some way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
And there's always room to improve, like you can get better at making movies and finding your voice and your style and all that kind of stuff.
Finding your voice, I think, is probably the biggest thing with any filmmaker.
And that's why I love movies so much, is that it's an experience. Like, it's such a unique experience that you can't.
Yeah.
You can talk about it, but.
Have you noticed how little we've talked about intention over the last several weeks of episodes?
Yeah, not too much.
It's like after we had beat up that topic,
yeah,
we just kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about it.
It is kind of funny how little we talked about this film, too, in this episode.
What film?
What movie?
Oh, Shadows.
Oh, is this short film roundup? We're rolling?
Should we get back to that? Okay.
I'm so sorry.
This part, holy crap. I freaking loved this so much. This reveal of these guys all standing together, I was like, gosh, that is so cool.
It's amazing.
And are those guys in prosthetics? Are those people in prosthetics?
I have no idea.
Go back.
They look like engineers.
They do look like engineers.
They have no mouth.
I think that is prosthetics.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I dig that a ton. But again, that was like so interesting that I'm just like, wait, no, more. What next? I love the texture on that face, by the way.
Yeah.
He did a really cool texture there.
I love, dude, the reveal of the monster. I really like this whole thing about this alien coming in or whatever it is.
Trans-dimensional being.
Yeah, I love
like
how
in Indiana Jones 4, King of the Crystal Skull.
I love how
they look similar, actually.
I love how the being is here without, like, I don't know, without
spooky
succumbing to any cliches.
Yeah.
I got heavy Arrival vibes from this. From the alien / being, whatever it is. I think it's kind of weird how we are following kind of horror, what's the word, traditions, I guess, where we have, long shots of following a character, him turning around a lot, red herrings. I think it's weird to lead off with something like that and then end up with something like this, where it's far more interesting. So, yeah, I do kind of wish it was just more. Less fear driven, I guess.
I wish I knew that there were two beings. Is that a second being in the car, like a different being?
I thought it was the same one.
I got the impression that it was a different one because it was like darker, but it might have literally just been the light.
I couldn't tell.
I figured it was the same because he's still frightened and he's running away.
Yeah.
And then he sees a being that looks exactly like it. I assumed it was the same.
I felt like, regardless of that, they climaxed too early, like in the middle, like that cool double overlay when the monster first gets him.
Yeah.
Like after that point, I was like, all right.
I felt
Climax.
like it didn't climax at all.
Yeah.
Or that the end was
Actually,
the
I
climax.
felt the same. I felt like it didn't climax at all either.
That's funny.
That's the other thing that I felt like was sort of missing was like a. While the pacing wasn't bad,
And that was
the
weird.
kind of missing like an arc. It was just sort of like chased, caught.
Yeah.
You know.
There was no goal. There was no challenge. I mean, there was. It was him getting away, right?
Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah, and this is where we talk about why it was such a big tone poem as opposed to a story.
Yeah.
Do I have anything else to say? I have nothing to say.
I don't think so.
I love that so much.
I loved all this.
Yeah, it's really cool.
This actually felt very Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah, huh? It looks just like Doctor Who.
Yeah, and actually these beings look a lot like characters from Doctor Who also.
I really wish I liked this more, because it hits just about every nail that I like in movies, except for the immersion. Yeah.
Any questions?
I'm curious as to what kind of movies this person is making, like right now, prior to this, future of this. Like, why was this made? Why was it written? There's a lot of whys here.
Mm-hmm. This it's finished. Go ahead.
Eric Walker, who submitted this to us, I saw that you wrote the film. That's what it says in the credits, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your inspiration for writing a film like this? Are these beings that we're seeing aliens, or are they kind of just different species of human or something like that? What's the point of it? Or is it just up to the audience to figure it out?
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to know too. It's like how much story was here, like how much backstory is there in your head, and how much of that do you want us to know even? And I want to know basically what Dee asked. I'm really curious what kind of movies you make and what you have in the works. Yeah.
When you hear us refer to this as more of a tone poem and less of a narrative story, does that make you cringe or feel satisfied?
Yeah,
That's
a good one.
That's good, because that'll pinpoint your intent.
Yeah. Yeah, what was your intent?
Yeah.
That actually will change a little bit of the perspective of how I deciphered the movie.
Yeah. Thank you for submitting it. It was a joy to watch. It was
absolute joy.
very
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And I can tell you're definitely good. You have talent.
Yeah,
Keep going.
there's chops here, man.
Yeah. So keep going, and I hope that you'll send us another movie again soon.
Absolutely. If you are not the filmmaker and you're like, wow, these guys are pretty awesome, I want to give them films.
Yeah.
You can do so. We have a form in our description. Just click on it and fill it out. Send us a film.
We'll review your movie because we have to.
We have to. It'll appear on our list, and we'll have to. Unless you don't.
These guys don't like doing it.
No,
but
we love doing it.
I love doing it.
Just not under the
Payment?
Payment.
You guys got someone. You know
Also,
what?
we have families.
Look,
I don't care about your families.
just like I'd like him. I would. I mean, I'm sure he's a decent
would?
guy, but he's a dick to us.
He's also kind of a shit filmmaker. I'm just gonna.
He's
He's
a
not.
bad filmmaker.
He's not.
Okay, Payment
Look,
is a. bad
Have you
film-
seen E Pluribus Unum? Did you watch it
Okay.
again?
Okay, wait.
Did you watch it again and analyze
you
it?
straight up agreed with us that it was a shit film?
But that was the first time I watched it. Did you watch it again?
I watched it only once.
Does it have
and I only
layers?
needed
Yes,
once.
it's
It's
deep.
weird.
It's deep.
It's
There's
not.
symbolism.
It's
And you know
not. It's
what?
pretentious.
You know what? If I was talking to Payman about intent, he would agree with me at all times, and he would be like, you know what? You can accidentally make a movie.
Payman had
Payman
intent.
agrees that you can accidentally make a movie.
Payman had intent in his film. There's nothing.
No, he
of that
didn't.
was
No, he
there.
didn't.
Yes, he did.
Nope. He
Well,
told me.
you've
said
been
it was
watching
symbolism.
Short
He
Film
accidentally made it up.
Roundup,
He didn't.
coming to you here from the
It
void.
was not accidental.
We'll
It was
see
accidental.
you
He told me.
next time.
He told me.
It was all intent.
Hail
He told me.
Payman.
That's right. That's right.
Where did you go, Kenny?
Oh my gosh. Hopefully not the pool again.
Not the pool again, Kenny. No.